Going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video. If you don't know who I am, that means you're new. I'm Mark. What's good with y'all? Go check out my other videos. Check them out. Check them out. But first, stay on this one. This is actually going to be a pretty deep, in a sense, topic for my channel. Now, you read the title, you saw the thumbnail, all that good shit. You know what the deal is. Welcome back to another episode of Debunking Anti Gunners. Okay, cool. For some reason, I thought the microphone turned off. That would have just annoyed the living hell out of me. All right, so welcome back to another episode, by the way. All right, in this episode of Debunking Anti Gunners, we're debunking the common argument that anti-gunners love to make when it comes to, you know, them trying to say why we shouldn't care about them wanting to take our rights away. 90% of Americans are how did they word it exactly? 90% of Americans are for universal background checks, I believe is how they worded it. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head. However, that is the gist of what they were saying. Let's get this out of the way. Background checks and universal background checks, while both unconstitutional in my opinion, are also different things entirely. So let's get into it. The standard background check essentially is just going to, look for, your standard criminal history, mental health problems, drug problems, things like that. The universal background check, all right, that system requires a background check for any and every firearm sale. So this means if you were to sell, let's say, for example, how I got the G2C from Adam, I bought it from him, right? I would have had to do a background check for that. But why? That's my best friend, basically my brother. I've known him since I was 8 years old. He's known me since he was 10. Why would there need to be a background check? It would require a stored database, essentially, in order for it to function. Now, what do we call these stored databases? National registries. All right. Now, what has happened with the National Registry? It has always led to confiscation. This is the problem. All right. People like to say, oh, well, we don't have to have a National Registry. Let's just do this or this. That's not how it works. You're wanting to take an inch, to take another inch, to take another inch, to take another inch, thinking that we won't notice, but we do. We do. Why do you think we have been fighting as hard as we have to keep our Second Amendment rights and restore them to what they originally were? Why do you think we're fighting that good fight? We're not doing it because, oh, well, we just care about this one particular thing. No, all of these little gun control arguments go hand in hand. They all, you know what I mean? They all correlate with each other. You know what I mean? Because it's not just a matter of, oh, well, let's do this and that'll be the end of it. Because that never was the plan from the beginning, nor can that ever be their plan. The plan as a whole is to eliminate the Second Amendment. That is what they are going for. I can tell you this without a doubt. That is the entire plan. All right. So if their goal is to eliminate the Second Amendment, why would they just take one piece, say, oh, well, let's restrict this and see if that, works out. And then, oh, well, I guess, it didn't work out. Well, we won't do any more. We said we're going to stop there. That doesn't happen. That's never been the case ever in the history of ever. Like, the fuck? So that's the problem here. When we give these inches up, right? They see it as building blocks to take the mile. Everybody's heard the phrase, you give an inch, take a mile. That's no. They're literally, every inch that we're giving them, they're using as a building block that way. Next up, they're taking miles. You know what I mean? It's not something that is just going to stop, with universal background checks. It's not going to stop with that. You know what I mean? These universal background checks would never help in the first place. All right. Now, what I will say, and while I agree it is, still unconstitutional, I think background checks as a whole are fucking stupid. I think they're unconstitutional. Here's why. Because if you were a free citizen, if you're not in prison or a mental hospital or things along those lines, I believe you should have the right to own guns. And if you're that bad of a person and you've done things that you don't deserve to have the right to own guns, why do you deserve to have the right to be in a free society? Tell me that. I'll wait. Tell me. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't at all. A universal background check system would never be effective. That's why most Americans aren't for a universal background check system. Now, here's another problem that, is for another problem with their argument. When they say that, oh, well, 90% of Americans are for universal background checks, they're not telling the truth in multiple ways. They're not telling the truth about the number of people who are actually for universal background checks. They're not telling the truth about what they actually asked the people when it came to universal background checks. They only asked them about background checks, standard background checks, and they're lying to all of y'all by making y'all think that they were talking about universal background checks when they asked these people that. The actual questions that was asked when this was cited, all right, the actual question that was asked when this was cited was, do you agree with background checks for firearm purchases? Now, I will say a majority of people who, took the survey, they agreed. I disagree. I think it's stupid. I really don't think a background check system is effective. Look, in a better world where where morality is more common in society, and we have principles that we stand on, a lot of the people who are free right now wouldn't be free. We could agree on that. So that's why I say I truly believe it's such a stupid system to sit here and say, oh, well, we need universal background checks because we don't want, guns to fall into the hands of criminals. First off, criminals steal guns. That's another thing. Criminals steal guns. But let's get back on the topic, all right? Or they buy them off the black market. Back on the topic, though. So when you ask people if they're for background checks, and you're meaning universal background checks, and you're knowing that in your head but not saying it purposefully, it's a tainted test. The results are invalid. That's simply what it is. There's no other way around it. That's like cheating a test. And, if you pass the test, that's cool. But you still cheated the test. You didn't know what you needed to know. You know what I mean? Now, I'm not going to sit here and act like I haven't cheated a test or two. But that's not the point. That's not what I'm getting at all. That's nowhere near what I'm discussing here. Universal background checks as well, with being unconstitutional, have always led to a national registry, which has always led to confiscation. Let me see here. A pain in the ass to have to deal with as far as going to having to hit up a department, whether it be a law enforcement department or however your guys' states does their background check system. Florida's through the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. With that being the case, you have to then contact who does the background check. And then on top of having to contact them, arrange this background check to go together, and hopefully it all goes through, and then you can, either buy the gun from your friend or your family member or whatever, or they can sell it to you or whatever, right? For all of that shit, right? You still have to pay an extra fee. Why? Because running a background check is not free. And I can tell you guys this from experience. Running a background check is not free. Here in the state of Florida, it'll run you about $25. So if any of y'all are wondering, that's, about the price range for that. So when you're sitting here making these arguments, right? Because I feel I've been getting a little off topic here. Sorry about that. When you're sitting here making these arguments for a national gun registry, a majority of people don't know what that truly means. They think, not National Gun Registry, Jesus, sorry. Long day, guys. Long day, all right? when you're when you're arguing for a universal background check system, sorry, as I said, they all go hand in hand. They all go hand in hand. When you're arguing for a universal background check system, all right, all you are arguing for is for the people who are actually going to abide by the laws to have to deal with more pain in the ass. They're going to have to spend more of their hard-earned money that's already getting taxed a lot as it is. Let me see here. You're not affecting any criminals and how they get their guns, because let's be real here. I can tell you, look, from where I live, right? The way I lived when I was younger, the people I, still know and still very close with, some of them who I'm no longer as close with. What I can tell y'all about how criminals get guns is as simple as this. And this is very publicly known information too. They will either steal them, buy them from somebody who's already not supposed to have one, or they will have somebody who will go to the store and buy it for them. So none of this truly affects the criminals here. None of it does. None of it prevents them from getting the guns they want. None of it prevents them from doing anything that they would normally do. It doesn't prevent them from doing anything. All it does is cause more of a pain in the ass to the law-abiding citizen. That is all it does. And that's the problem here, is when people make this argument, I point out to them all the time, okay, so how is that going to help? Oh, well, it'll just prevent the wrong people from having guns. How? The people who are prohibited possessors, they don't go through background checks. They don't do that shit because they're not buying their guns legally. They're not obtaining them in a legal manner. So how does that help? How does it help for the government just to have the ability to say, hey, no matter what it is, whether you're just selling a gun to a friend, you have to run a background check. If not, you could face jail time. A friend could face jail time. Let's see here. Beyond that, let's say you do, go through all this. It's a pain in the ass to have to deal with. It's an extra fee. And then it's also a wait period. Because if look, let's be 100% real here. Do you guys think a universal background check system will run anywhere near as fast as the current background check systems do? And here's the thing, I can say this right now. A lot of background check systems still take a long damn time. They still take a good minute, man. So that's the thing, is like, why would I do all that? Why would I want to go through all of that? You know what I mean? Why would we want to vote for that? There's no reason to. It doesn't make sense to, because it's not going to help prevent crime. It's not going to help prevent any form of gun violence. All it's going to do is cause problems for the law-abiding citizens, which proves my point that all they want to do is fucking take guns from the law-abiding citizens. Why? Because the law-abiding citizens are going to be the only ones who actually will fight back if there's a tyrannical government, because that is what the Second Amendment was for, which is why they want it taken away. Like, I don't know, guys. I mean, some people, they like to say I'm crazy when I say shit like this, but it seems pretty damn obvious to me that it's not a matter of, oh, well, we just need this one little piece here that'll solve the problem, because it never fucking solves a problem, because violence is always going to be an issue, guys. Criminals are always going to commit crimes. That's just the fucking truth here, all right? Why make it harder for us to own guns and protect ourselves, and why make it easier for them to harm us and steal from us? You can't tell me. You can't. And that's why a fucking universal background check system is fucking stupid. All right? You have to deal with a longer wait time. You have to deal with extra fees. Let me see here. You have to deal with contacting them to have the background check done. Let me see here. You also have to worry about, if you don't do that, charges on you, criminal charges. You see what I mean here? None of it is meant to be a positive for the law-abiding citizen. And then it's despicable. It really pisses me off, because when you make the argument that 90% of Americans are agreeing with a universal background check system, and you're not even telling the fucking truth on what you're talking about, that makes you one of the most disgraceful pieces of shit in the world, in my opinion. All right? I don't care who you are. You're purposely misleading just to push a political agenda. Strictly to do that. Now, here's the thing. I can say that, yeah, well, I do stand in a much more obvious, space when it comes to, a political standpoint than a majority of people are. Everything that I act upon and, and say, a majority, like we're talking 95, if not more percent of the time, I have evidence to back up. Nothing I ever say here is strictly to push a political agenda. And that's one of the things that none of these anti-gunners can ever say. That's something that only us who are actually pro Second Amendment can say. We're not doing this to push a political agenda. We're doing this so that way we don't have to really deal with fucking politics. All right? Why? Because what was the Second Amendment originally fucking for? To fight off a government, foreign or tyrannical, or excuse me, not fight off a government. Jesus, this is like the second time I've done that in the past 24 hours. Fight off a tyrannical government, foreign or domestic. Plain and simple. That's all it was. That is all it was originally created for. All right. So to make the argument that we need a universal background check system, all it does is give a heads up to the government that could possibly go tyrannical, which honestly it's starting to seem that they are more than not going tyrannical. A heads up, hey, this citizen's going to arm themselves, be ready. You know what I mean? All it does is give that heads up to them. All it does is cause a pain in the ass. And it doesn't even stop criminals from getting the fucking guns that they're going to get. It does nothing other than fuck over me and people who are like me, who believe in the Second Amendment and are for fucking the ownership of firearms and protecting your life, your family's lives, and fighting off a tyrannical government. All right? That is the thing here. All it does is cause problems for people like me. It doesn't do shit to stop criminals. It doesn't do shit to keep people safe. All it does is put more money in your pockets and cause problems for people like me. I think that about wraps it up for this video. And I want to point this out too, because I'm sure some of y'all are wondering, well, how did you debunk it? Because you didn't talk about the 90%. Well, here's what I can tell you. With how many gun owners there are in America, there makes up a lot more than 10% of the population that own firearms. They do not all agree with universal background checks. A majority of them do not, if not all do not. But I can say a majority of them do not. I think that about wraps it up for this video. Sorry if I got a little, heated there. Just I get a little annoyed when I'm talking about, these fucking dumbass little anti-gunners who are pushing gun control. And here's the reason why. It all goes hand in hand. If you bring up one, you have to bring up another, because that brings up another one, which then brings up this and then that and this and that. And it's so, bro, it all goes hand in hand. All right. So just remember that. That's why we can't give an inch, because it goes hand in hand. Giving an inch means that we're giving a mile. All right. Y'all go ahead and make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, hit that bell. When you hit that bell, hit all. And because you agree with me, right? Because you agree that not only do 90% of Americans, that bullshit, all right, that's fucking fake. All right, that whole bullshit that 90% of Americans are for universal background checks, that's, if you agree with me, that's the dumbest shit you've ever fucking heard in your life, considering you know how many people own firearms and care about their ownership of them. Go ahead and make sure to check out the podcast channel, Adam's channel, Centerfire Podcast, Gun Nut TV. Y'all know what the deal is. Y'all make sure to stay legal, stay safe, stay dangerous. Have a good one, y'all. Peace.